this is the hat we're going to start on next. We've already finished the stained glass window one, which is this. That was one we just finished, and it turned out really, really well. This time I want to make the 3-color one. You can make them in 3 or 5 colors. I have some pictures here to show you. This is a 5-color one. You can choose your own colors. This one's 3 colors, that one's 5. You can use any color combination you like. I've decided the one I'm going to make now is going to be red, white, and blue. Since 4th of July is just a couple of weeks away, I like to go ahead and get one bright red and white and blue one to put out. I'm using Encore yarn, which is my favorite yarn to make hats and sweaters and afghans with. It is 75% acrylic and 25% wool. It is machine washable and it's machine dryable, but you cannot iron it or use bleach. It requires a size 8 needle, or an H hook. They both work great. There's 200 yards to one of these, so 200 yards can make you up to 4 hats, because an average hat takes about 50 yards. But if you make a hat a slouchy, it could take 100 yards. And then also the one that's done by Plymouth Yarns, it's kind of on a parallelogram shape. I think they call it the spiral hat. That can take the better part of a whole 200 yards just because of the way it's made. But if you liked this, I will bring home my color chart of my Encore yarn so you can see all the different colors Encore comes in. I have several of them on my website, which is stitchniche.com. And there's still others that I don't have on my website. And if you're after a specific color to make something, there's a good chance I can order it as long as they still are carrying it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this one. The primary color is going to be white. So everywhere you see the lime green, that is where you're going to see white. And I'm going to put the red next to it, I think, because I kind of like the idea of having the red and white touching. So that means the blue is going to be where the yellow is. And it looks like here's where the yellow is, and up here. So there won't be as much blue. I can always finish the top in blue just to give it a different color combination. Or I can do that middle stripe here in blue with white. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do the middle stripe in blue and white, and the bottom stripe in the top right in red and white, and then just kind of work my colors as I go. Okay, I'm going to start with this. I'm not going to show you how to do the rib stitch. We already know how to do the rib stitch. So I think we just cast on 64 or however many stitches depending on the size of the hat. I'm going to make a lady size hat, so it's going to be probably close to the 70 count mark. And I'm doing it on a 16-inch circular needle, and I'm doing my locking stitch to hold the 2 ends together as I showed you on the previous hat. And then I will show you how to bind it off here using double pointed needles when you get to the top half. And why I've done the rib stitch here. There's a reason why I do the rib stitch here. But I'll get into all that when I get ready to do the actual, but when I get ready to upload the final one. I'm going to start on it tonight. It may take 2 or 3 nights, so bear with me, but it will be on my video site in YouTube as soon as possible. So I've started casting on. I was looking at the pattern here. Right here it says 16-inch circular size 7. Also you need N6. I don't know why that didn't show up. Plus 1 set of double pointed in size 6 and 7. I'm not sure why I have a 6 there, but I'll leave it until I see what I'm doing. Now, in this part of my pattern, I give you the option to put your colors in. So when you do color A, you'll know which is your color A, which is your color B, and which is your color C. So in my case, I'm going to use white as my primary color. So white's going to go here. My secondary color, which is the orange, in my case, is going to be red. So I'm going to write red here. So I know anytime I have a B, it's going to be red. And then my royal will go here. So I know color C is going to be royal. Right now I've also went ahead and cast on 80 stitches because the ladies or the middle size hat, which is an 18-inch head, which is mostly ladies, says cast on 80. But I'm going to do my little locking stitch before I place my marker. And to do my locking stitch, I have to cast on 1 more stitch. I need 81. So there I have my 81 stitches. And then you make sure the stitches are not twisted. Always make sure they're all facing in. Like that. If they all face in, I know they're all correct, because if they're not all facing in, see, I would have a twist right here, and every time I work on my hat, I'll have a twist and I'll have to take it apart. So I'm making sure it's all the way. Okay, so now all mine have twisted the right direction. There's a lot of stitches here, so, or I can say turn it this way. All the stitches are facing out. Either way works, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I bring it up. To do my locking stitch, I slide the first cast on stitch over on from the left needle to the right needle and do like a bind off. Take the first stitch that was on the right needle and put it over the stitch you just did off of the left needle and pull it tight. And now you're ready to go. And as you see, it lines up nice and even. You don't have that staggered look that you have when you just start knitting. All right, now this one says to knit 1 purl 1 for 8 rounds. So I'm going ahead and get that started now. Once I get the 8 rounds done, I'll come back and we'll see what's next on our list of things to do. I'm just about done with row 8 of my rib. Let me get the last few stitches done. After I turned off the video, I went ahead and placed a marker, so that way I could keep track of where I'm at. Now I like to use the smallest marker I can put on my needles. As you can see, this is a real small one. Now some people like to use big ones. It's entirely up to you which size marker you like to use. All right, now also I wanted to show you this. You see how I did that connector? See how nice it just goes across? Here's show you what happened when I didn't do that. This is before I figured out how to do that connector. As you can see, it looks like there's a little jog between the first stitch and the last stitch. It's because I didn't connect them together with that kind of like a bind off thing, where with here I did, and you can definitely see it has a nicer continuing look. Now as you change your colors, it's hard to cut them because you do so many colors, so close together. I just wrap them around each other as they go up. If you want, you can cut your color. You can weave it in and then cut your next color and weave it in and cut your next color and weave it in. It's entirely up to you which way you like to do it, but I prefer to do this because it gives me a very clean look on the outside and I don't have to keep cutting my yarn. It's right here. And it's really, you can sometimes see it like this stitch is a little big, but in comparison, there's hardly any variations in them. All right, let's go ahead and get started on the next step. Okay, next step is the body of the hat. Change to size 7 needles. Where's my 7s? I know I have my 7s. I gotta go find my 7. I just realized when I went to pick up the other needles, these are the 6s and this should have been done on a 6. Instead, I did them on my 7s. So obviously I can't go down to a 6. So I went ahead and picked up a pair of 8s. So the hat will be done in 7 and 8s. Worst weight yarn works good with 8 anyway. So either way will work, and this yarn works really well with the size 8 needles. All right, let's go ahead and start the body of the hat. Change the size. In this case, it'll be 8, now and throughout. Now to make the blocks, because that's what I call this set. These are blocks. Okay, in the first block, you knit 3 rounds in the first color, which is color B, because color A is here. So I say my color B is red. So it says to knit 3 rounds in red. So I just lay my red next to my work, pick up my next needle. So we're going to actually knit off of this needle. I'll go ahead and put my marker away because I'll put the marker back on after I finish knitting 1 round. So you start knitting just like always. So you knit 3 rounds in color B. Sometimes it's a little wonky getting started because of that odd needle you have floating around, but in a little bit of time it'll be getting out of your way. Now what I do is I pull the needle out as quite a distance. That way I can have all the yarn going this way because we're putting it on a different needle. So let me just kind of stick that underneath there so it's out of my way. So we just start with our knit. So I'm going to knit around three rounds around. I'll go ahead and do 1 and you can see how this works. Tomorrow when I picked it up again, I'm going to stop at my shop and I'm going to pick up some other yarns which would work great on with hats, because not every place you can find the Plymouth Encore. However, my website has it on. You can always order it through my website and I can mail it to you. That's no big deal. But I'll also show you some of the other yarns that can be used. Some you can pick up at Hobby Lobby, Joann's, possibly Walmart. The only yarn I don't recommend doing is Red Heart, because Red Heart has a thick core, which makes it kind of stiff. So when you go to make your hat, since it's kind of stiff, all your stitches wind up being a little bit bigger, which makes the hat bigger, which throws your gauge off. But if that's the only yarn you can get, you're more than welcome to use it. I would check my gauge. I'd probably go down one size in all my needles in order to make it work better. But it's your decision, whichever works best for you, or what you can find in your area. Like I said, I can mail to anywhere within the continental United States. That's no problem. I've never mailed to Alaska or Hawaii before, but I'm sure if you live in one of those two states here in the United States, I'm sure I can send it there. The price would be a little bit more, obviously, for shipping because it's going quite a distance. But that is an option I have. So if you wanted to use the same yarns I'm using, they will be available. Okay, as you see, I'm still working around. This is the old needle right here. This is a new needle that is being knitted on. I'm just about around with my first round, and then I can put my marker on. Because you always want to start and stop at the same place, especially when you're doing a design, because you don't want your design to get staggered off by one stitch. As I did in that last video, I was off by one stitch and everything kind of went a little wonky till I tinked it back and fixed that aspect of it. But you can see the beginning is coming up fast, and I'm just about off of this needle. This is the easiest way to do it. You don't want to take the stitches off your needle and try to put them on the other needle. It's better to knit them off one needle onto another needle, because that way it keeps them in the right position and it keeps them the same thickness or size, so all your stitches keep coming out uniform. Just about around to my first one. And I know there's no knots in knitting. However, if it's something that's going to get used and possibly abused, I like to put a square knot whenever I feel it might be advantageous. And then I still weave in my tails. As you can see, I'm getting down to the last 4. Okay, so I got the last 4 stitches on, and this needle came off. Now you can see how loose everything had gotten, which is normal because you're starting with a new yarn. So what I do is I pull the old yarn and I pull the new yarn. Kind of tightens it up a bit. Make sure all the yarn is to the back. Put my marker. Like I said, I like to use the smallest marker possible. If you don't have access to markers, you can always make a marker out of yarn. Take a piece of yarn, do an overhand loop in your yarn, cut your tail short, and now you have a marker. You always want to use a different color yarn. That way you can know when you get to and from it. So that's another way to do a marker if you don't have one, or if you lost them in the middle of your work. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get this first one knitted. There we go. I get a couple of them knitted. All right. So now I turn my work over. You can see where the white is ended and the red has begun. You want to make sure they're roughly the same size. It looks like the second one here is a little bigger now than the first one. So let me pull the first one a little bit. That kind of tightens up the second one. Okay. So now I'll pull this one, and then, like I said, I like to do a square knot. It's a little bit of a challenge because you're working with 2 long tails, but if you don't want to do the long tail, you can do one long tail and the short tail. So you do right over left, no pull it tight, just snug, and then left over right, and that'll hold it nice and tight for you. So now we have to, since we're going up again, we want to carry our other yarn underneath. So we definitely want to carry our white yarn over our red. So put the white over the red and pull the red up from underneath. And continue your stitches. Well, let me take this one back off here now. There we go. So my red is under my white. And I said to do 3 rounds in this color, so I will come back when I get near the end of my next round. It's going to be fun because I'm going to be putzing around with different colors, and you may have to move them all the time as you put one yarn over another yarn. You may have to go like this. So just be very mindful where your yarns are at. You can always cut big chunks off and wind them up on bobbins, and that way you have the bobbins behind your work. I found with the bobbins, you can get just as tangled, and you have to keep adding to the bobbin because you run out, so then you got another join. And I try not to do joins unless I have no choice. But since I got 3 nice huge balls of yarn, I don't have to worry about any joints. I just have to make sure I don't tangle my yarn as I go. I'll be back after I get round 3 done. As I said earlier, I use most of the time Plymouth Encore yarn to make my hats. I like the way it feels. It's 25% wool, 75% acrylic, machine washable and dryable, and there's 200 yards per one package. Other ones that would work good are the Cherub Aran from Cascade. These are 55 nylon, 45 acrylic, no wool, so they're definitely machine washable. Another one is the Patents Canadiana. It's also a worsted weight, and off the top of my head, I don't remember what the yardage is. Oh, right here, 200 yards, 205 yards, and it's machine washable. It also works great for the hat. Then when you want to get into some unique ones, there's this one here called Kitata from Cascade. It is what is the blend on it? That's like pulling the label off. Where is it? There it is, 70% cotton and 30% superwash merino wool. So this merino wool. It does say superwash, but they recommend hand wash in cool water, lay flat to dry. It's a really soft yarn. It comes in a variety of colors. Another one is if you're a wool lover, there's Cascade 220. There's 220 yards in here. It's also worsted weight, and it's 100% wool. It cannot machine wash. This is an ideal one if you love to do felting projects. It felts beautifully. And this I thought was a clever one. This is called Friday Harbor. This is a different combination of fibers. This is 80% wool and 20% silk. And they recommend hand wash. It is a worsted weight. And there's 219 yards on one of these. And these come in a variety of colors too. So there's many different yarns you can use to make these hats. Or you can use the good old Red Heart, whichever you prefer. I just thought I'd give you some ideas of other yarns that are out there that you could use. As long as they're worsted weight, you can use them for your hats, especially if they're soft. I just thought I'd show you how I do this part. This is just about done with round 2, but I'm getting ready to come back up to the marker, and this is again where you would swap your yarn around because you want to keep coiling your yarn in the back. That gives it a nice look. If you skip coiling it, you're going to have a long straight piece of yarn which could easily get caught. Okay, so I've done the last one. Slip the marker. I'll enlarge this a little bit. Slip the marker. Now you're still using red because there's still one more, so you want the yellow, the white underneath like this, but then you're going to have to twist the red one more time. That way you can do your next stitch. And you won't see much now because it's just the first twist. But always give your bottom line yarn just a little tug just to make sure it stays snug. And it doesn't hurt to tug a little bit on your top one too. Not a whole lot because you definitely don't want to affect that one. And then continue working. And when you get around to row 3, finish with round 3, if we're going to add another color, then that's what we'll be doing next, which I'm sure it is. Round 3, well, no, it said first 3 rounds in the first color. Oh, first 3 rounds in the first color. That's my mistake. The first 3 rounds should have been white. And then I changed to this. So I'm going to have to take all this out and redo it and drop the red, because I won't be using the red until I finish 3 more rounds. So bear with me while I make the correction. That's why it's sometimes better to read your pattern twice before you start knitting. I went ahead and tinked it all out and did the 3 rows in the original color as the direction said. I'm going to change it and say in color A. That way I won't make the same mistake. Then it says rows 1 and 2 of the blocks, because now we're doing the blocks. Color B, which in my case is red, knit around slipping the marker as you go. Well, I've done that twice because it said to do it for rows 1 and 2. Rows 3 with color A. Now I go back to the white. As you see, I've got the white underneath the red. Okay, so I got the yarn correct. And then it says to knit 2, slip 2, keeping the yarn in back. WYB stands for with yarn in back of the 2 slip stitches loose. You don't want to make it really tight, and it's repeated around. So with white, I knit 2, because we're only going to use 1 color at a time, just like we did it with our stained glass window hat. And I pulled this little snug. I just want to make sure it's nice and tight. And then you slip 2 as if to knit. And then you knit 2. Now you don't want to pull this yarn tight. You want to leave it loose behind your work, like I did there. Knit 2 more. And then you want to slip 2, knit 2, keeping the yarn loose. 1, 2, slip 2, knit 2. To see what that looks like, we can look at this this one here. See, everywhere you see the green line, that's where the slip 2 was. And if I'd pulled it tight, then this would pucker like this. You want it loose, so that way when you go to the front, it stays nice and loose and stretchy. Okay, so let me do another one. Let me slide my yarn up. Slip 2 as if to purl, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2. So if you look at the back of this one, you can see every time I slipped, you see a little stagger. That's where I slipped over the 2. This is where I knitted 2, slip 2, knit 2. Now it says to repeat this for rounds 3 and again with round 4. And here it says knit 2, slip 2 through the back loop. So this one is, I don't know why, but there's a reason for it. With yarn in back, repeat around. So you always keep the yarn in back, but here you're going to slip through to the back loop instead of as if to purl. Because if the directions never say which direction to do it, it's always as if to purl. If the directions give you a choice, like here it says through the back loop, then you do it through the back loop. So let me go ahead and get around. That way I can show you the back loop. Here we got a slipping as if to purl because we're still on row 1. I keep moving my yarn up all the time. Knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, slip 2, okay, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, slip 2. Just keep going around and around till you get back to the beginning. I'm about halfway there. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I'm just repetitively doing the same thing. And as you see, after I do 3 or 4 stitches, I bring my yarn forward. That way I always have the yarn at the tip of my needle ready to go. And after I slide them to the front on this side, I slide them to the back on the other side. That way I always have plenty of yarn on my needles, so I don't have to stretch any of the stitches. Just about there. Okay, and I slip 2, and I slip the marker. Okay, so now I've finished with row 3. Now row 4 is knit 2, slip through the back loop with the yarn in back, and just keep repeating around. So, but before we do that, we got to twist our yarn. So we want to have the white yarn under the red yarn, like that. So you may have to move your yarns around. I'll move my red yarn over there, so that way my white yarn is where I'm working. So now we knit 2 and give, you can see how that was loose. You want to give it a tug, so you want to tighten it up back there, because when I first moved it, it looked like that, and you definitely don't want that loose like that. So you want to tug it just enough to snug it up, so that way they're the same size. Okay, so now it says to slip 2 through the back loop. So instead of doing it this way, we're going to go through the back loop this way, as if we're going to knit. And then we'll knit 2. So you're knitting the white like you did before, and you're slipping the red through the back loop. Knit the 2 whites, slip the reds. Knit 2. I think the reason for the slipping is to make sure the 2 red stitches are turned the same direction as the 2 white stitches, because now when we knit across in the next color, you don't want these to have a twist in them. So by going through the back loop, you're keeping the yarn from getting twisted. The designers always have reason for doing odd things. You may not get a, oops, I did something wrong. I slipped the white when I was supposed to knit the white. They usually have a reason for little things that they do. It's to make their project lay the correct way, or not have stitches twist, or not have stitches pucker. So I've always, when I've worked with somebody else's design, read it one sentence at a time from comma to comma, and don't ask questions, just do exactly what they say, and you'll find out that what they say works, unless for some reason there's a mistake in the pattern, which can happen also. Sometimes it's designer error, sometimes it's publisher error, because the publisher doesn't know how to knit, and he sees you wrote something, he's not quite sure what you wrote, or doesn't make sense to him, so he may go and correct it to make sense to him, which actually makes a typo in your pattern. So be prepared. Sometimes your patterns will have errors in it. Most of the time you can contact the designer and ask them, oops, I purled that one, ask them about their design and about a certain sentence or phrase, and they're more than happy to tell you the correct way to do that particular stitch or that particular pattern. And if it's a company like Plymouth, Barocco, Knitting Fever, and it's one of their patterns, you just call their office, their main headquarters, and ask them, and they will get a hold of their designer who did that design and help you figure out how to make the correction. And then you write the correction on your pattern, so next time you make it, you'll know exactly what to do. Now with me, if somebody brings a mistake to me, I will go ahead and make the correction and then email you a corrected pattern. along with the other individuals who have bought that same pattern. So I always try to make sure the most current, correct pattern is out there on the internet. Just about done. Knit 2, and then purl 2. Knit, slip them as if to knit. Okay, there, got that done. You can see the roll of white underneath the roll of white that's on the needle. Okay, so now we go 5 and 6 with color B. You want to knit around, and color B is red because we want to repeat what we did here. That's what gives us our completed bar that you have here. So let me go ahead and knit the 2 rounds. I'll go ahead and get the first one started. Bring the red under the white. Set the white to the side because now you want the red under. So when you knit this one, I'll go ahead and knit 2. The yarn is twisted inside your work, and you can see it right here. Now this is kind of loose because it has to be, because that's a slip stitch, so you definitely don't want to tug on that too much. You just want to let it relax. And then continue around, and when you get to round 2, same thing, you want to twist the yarn around so that way it keeps coiling up the back side. Okay, when I get finished with round 6, I'll be back. Before I go to the next step, I thought I'd show you some of the different color combinations I've done. Most of these, or if not all of them, are 3 color combinations. This one is royal blue with a neon pink and white. Here's one with just 2 shades of pink. I didn't use 3, I think there's only 2 on here. This one is done in 2 shades of purple and white, because so if you have a purple nut, this would be a great one for them. This one was done with a neon green, a royal blue, and white. Here's one I thought was kind of neat. It's the bright yellow with neon green and white. This was a little bit different. I just did just a few highlights in white, but primarily I did blue and gold because the Florida Gators colors are blue and gold. So I thought this would be a cute Gators hat. But I wanted to give you an idea of some of the different color combinations, and there's hundreds to choose from. You don't have to do just the ones I did. Okay, let's get back to our pattern. I have now done rows 1 through 6. Let me enlarge this so we can see the pattern of the pattern, which is the blocks. So you can see that the blocks are there. Now I would go to the next one, which is the stripes. That would be here, this stripe area. And I'm going to bring in the other color. So 7 and 8 would be done with color C, and color C is royal. So I would do 2 rounds in plain knit in color C, then row 9 I switch to A and knit, and then 10 I switch back to C and knit, 11 is A and knit, 12 and 13 is C and knit. So it's 2 rounds, 1 round, 1, 1, and then 2. So I really don't have to show how this is done because it's just basically knitting, and like with the other ones, you carry your yarn up and twisting it as you go, just like I showed you in the very beginning. I'll go ahead and do one because the next color would be blue. Let's take this red one off. I did this so I didn't lose my marker. This would be 2 rounds of blue. So you would set your blue in place and just start knitting. I usually do a couple. Now to make sure I don't lose my place, I go ahead and take the last color I did, which in this case is red, and just do a square knot just to secure it. You can always undo it if you want to, but I always like to do this just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So it's right over left and then left over right, and pull it tight, or not real tight, just enough to hold it in place. So this way we don't lose this one, and when we get done we can always take out the knot and weave it. But this just kind of holds us in place until we get ready to move on to the next color. And once we get ready to do the next color, all these will start falling into place. So let me go ahead and knit around this until I get back to here, and then I'll get back to here and I'll show you how I work with the 2 extra ones, the white and the red, while dealing with the blue. Okay, I've just about finished the first round in blue. So when I get to the end, see, as you can see, I put the red and white off to this side because they're kind of just left to rest. And I put the blue on this side so I can keep it separate. I don't like to tangle my yarns if I can avoid it. And with this one, it can be easily tangled because there's so many twists when you take it from one side to the other. Okay, now I'm getting ready to start round 2, and round 2 is also in blue. See how this red one is kind of loose? You want to pull it and kind of tighten it up a bit. Huh. Oh, that's the one I tied the blue to. Okay, so let's untie the blue. That's why it's just a light knot. Okay, where is it? Okay. I would tighten up the red, as I've just done here. See, now it's tight. It's not loose like it was before. Now I'm going to tighten it again with the blue one. And just do that light square knot again. That way you can always take it out, but this is a good way to help hold it. So now you can see that red one is nice and snug like the other reds. Let's see. Okay, I'll just leave it right there. Better put my marker back on. Now I'm getting ready to knit the first one over here. But as I said before, you want to make sure you wrap the yarn around the other yarn in order to keep it twisting. So what you would do is take your blue over and under. I'll do that again in case I got out of frame. Okay, so you have your red and white together, and you have your blue off to the side. Put the blue over and under. And you can see how it's now twisted around the yellow, the red and the white. And that's going to help keep it running straight up your pattern or your hat. So now you would knit your first one. If you can get the needle in place. And just to make sure, after I insert my needle in my second one, I give my first one just a little tug, just to make sure it's not loose, not a big tug, just a little tug. And then start knitting around again. And after I get this blue one done, I will do the same thing with color A, which is white. I would move the blue to the side, bring the white over, and then the blue and red would be together like this, and the white one would go over. The white one would go over and under, and then continue with white, and just keep doing the same thing. Always the two colors that are resting, you hold together, and the color you're going to knit with go over and under, so you can keep the twist going all the way up to the top of the hat. And sometimes you may have to give a little tug just to make sure they stay nice and snug, but not so much that you cause a pucker, but you want them to lay as smooth as possible along the back side of your hat. That's what gives you this nice smooth look. Even though it's a little bit of a lumpy thing, it's still nice and smooth, and by every now and then giving a little tug, it helps keep your seam as invisible as possible. Let me go ahead and do the rest of them. I'm just going to go ahead and do the other blue, the red, the white, and then the other red, and then finish it up with blue, and then I'll come back and we'll get ready to start on the next spot. I've got a few left in the blue. I thought I'd go ahead and show the next color change, which would be one round of white, then one round of blue, one round of white, and then 2 rounds of blue, and that would finish the stripe area. One more stitch. There we are. Slip my marker. Now, just to hold it in place, I'll put my needle there. Now, the next color I'm going to do is white. So that means the red, as long as it's not tangled, the red and blue, let me get it correct, then red and blue, I don't think I can bring this out much more, will be on your left, because these are going to be your passive ones right now. We're not going to use them. And we're going to bring the white one over and under. So let me take the white one over. I'll move these way off from front, over, out of the way. White one over and under. Now it's got a little extra twist around the red. You can leave it twisted around the red or you can take it off. I'm going to leave it twisted. It never hurts to have a little extra. But you can see it's under both the red and the blue. I'll enlarge it. There you go. You can see it's definitely under the red and blue. Even though the red it's twisted once around, I'm not going to worry about that extra twist. So you bring the white up and knit the 2 white. Now you want to make sure the last blue one is snug, so you would give a little tug on the blue. Looks like it's in good shape. It's right here. Of course, the red we don't have to bother with yet because it's just going to come up behind these stripes. And then we're going to put the red on next, into the next segment. But for now, we're just going to do 1 round of white, then 1 round of blue, 1 white, and then 2 blue. Then we'll get on to the next segment. But that's all this whole section is just doing what I'm doing. Go around once, bring the yarn over and under, and continue knitting. You just do it with whatever color is next on the list. So I'll come back once I've got all this little set of stripes done, which is a grand total of, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds. Right now I'm on round 3 of 7. So it won't take that long to get around. Be back shortly. Now I've finished rows 12 and 13. So you can see the blue and the white. Now it says block. Repeat rounds 14 through 19. Oh, for rounds 14 through 19, repeat rounds 1 through 6. 1 through 6 is here where you did the 2 reds, and then the white where you knit 2, skip 2 for 2 rounds, and then 2 rounds of red. So I'm going ahead and do that. I'm not going to bother showing it again because we've already shown it once, but I will show how the back is turning out. See how the red is getting a little loose because I haven't really used it. So what I could do is go like this there, and that tightened the red up. And I could do the same with the white, just tighten it up, and that kind of makes it lay a little nicer. So you can do that every 2 or 3 rows. Just slide it up and tighten it until you're finished, and then of course you'll weave in the tails of each color into the color. Like here, you would take that knot out and weave this blue into the blue here. I just haven't done it yet because I'm working up the pattern. So I'll be back after I finish the other block where I repeat rows 1 through 6 again, because the next thing is, oh, where is it? It must be on the back. The next thing is the web, and the web is this part here. It looks a little more complicated, but it really isn't. It's a real quick, easy thing to do. It only has 1 round, I think, or 2 rounds of each color. When I get to it, we'll find out. I just don't remember off the top of my head. But I'm going ahead and do this block round, and then I'll get up into this area here, and I'll come back at that point. Now we're going to start on the final design, which is the web. I've already done rows 20 and 21, which is with color C, which is the blue, knit around. Now 22 and 23 with color A, you knit 1, slip 1, and you just keep doing it. Slip second round. Oh, but on the second round, you go through the back loop just like we did with the second round of this one. We go through the back loop. So it's really quite simple. It's just knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 all the way around. Let me see if I can get this lined up. I want the white underneath the blue and the red, which is like that. And let's see, move the white over here. Okay, so we start with knit 1, slip 1, as if to purl, knit 1, slip 1, and you just repeat this all the way around. The only difference between this one and the other one, it was knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, slip 2, but this one's knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1. So it goes a little faster. You got to make sure you don't pull this one too tight. You got to make sure it's a little bit on the loose side. Sometimes I have a tendency to not be careful and pull it a little tight. And what that does, it makes the whole round on this part of the hat kind of pucker a little bit. You don't really want it to pucker. Get some more white out. There we go. And it's just very repetitive. When I get around to the other one, I will show you the inside, how I've been twisting the other yarns around each other. And every now and then pulling on them to keep them tight, like I showed you previously. This round goes a little faster. And I said in round 2, instead of purling it, you slip through the back loop. That's what keeps the stitch laying in the right position so they don't twist. Oh, I dropped a stitch. Well, that's easy to fix. There. Okay, now we're all fixed. Now that would be a knit one. Sometimes it's easy for stitches to slip off as you're knitting, especially if you're watching TV while you're trying to do this. Sometimes I can't do 2 things at once. Sometimes I can. I think we're just about around. Yeah, we're just about around to the beginning. And we'll do the same as before. We'll make sure the white is underneath the blue and red. Okay, so we slipped the blue, slipped the marker. Now, this one is going to be knitted in white. But we want to make sure the white goes over and under the red and the blue, just like we have been doing. And then we knit it. And this is you slip through the back loop, knit, slip through the back loop, and you repeat this around. Oh, we're getting there. I just want to go to the next set and see what it says, and we'll continue. I know it's very repetitive, but I think there's an extra roll in between this roll and the next knit one, slip one roll. It's under my hand, so I can't see it, so I thought I'd go ahead and finish this roll and see what it says, and we'll go from there. We're getting there. I know we're getting around. I feel like we're making some good progress. You can change the colors around if you like. You don't have to do the same color combination. You can switch the blue and the white around. You can change it to another color. I've got one in here where I've got a 5-color combination as well as the 3-color combination, or you can do a 2-color combination. It's entirely up to you how you want to design it. It is your hat. Whatever colors you like, and you can make it in 3 sizes: teenage, kid size, lady size, and men, of course. And you just make them in the colors which are appropriate or the favorite of the individual you're making the hat for. But as you see, even though you're working with multiple colors, you're only using 1 strand at a time. That's why it's a real easy type of color work to do. Okay, I'm just about to the end. Just have a couple more left. There we go. Slip, and just to hold it, I'll go ahead and do that. Now this blue one is loose. I can see it's loose, so I definitely want to tug on the blue. See, it kind of tightened it up a bit. And we'll look on the inside, and you can see it's been, that got caught up inside, but I can pull it out. There we go. But see how it just makes a nice twisted up the inside of the hat, which also keeps this looking very nice and neat. All right, let's go see what row 4 is. With color C, knit 1 round. I found with this, having it knit 1 round in this color, it helps. Let's see if I can get this untangled. There we go. It kind of acts as a breaker line between the 2 colors. And otherwise, I found out if you don't put an even color of this blue between this set of 2 and the next set of 2, which is between these 2 and these 2, if you don't do a roll of blue in between, they don't look right. They has a very funny look to them. So through experimentation, I found out by knitting 1 even roll of blue between doing the knit 1 purl ones or knit 1 slip ones, you get this nice even look. It doesn't look like it here and you don't really see it, but there is 1 roll of blue in between each of these staggers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to finish working on it because you see the same thing. 25 and 26 is with color A, which is the white. Slip 1, knit 1. And on the second round, you slip through the back loop just like we did before. And then as you see again, 27 is color C, just knit 1 around. That's that breaker between. And then another set of knit 1, slip 1s, and you finish off with knitting 1 round of color C. So I'll go ahead and get this part done, and I'll be back, and then we'll talk about the next set. Well, the next set is blocks, so I'll probably go ahead and do the next set of blocks. That's this. We've already done it twice. You can always go back and rewind the tape to see how the blocks are done if you want, and that'll bring us right up to the rib. So I'll go ahead and get this next section done, and we'll see where we go next. Okay, I went ahead and did the round with the blue. As you can see, the white is still kind of shows a little bit, but when you do the next one, instead of knit then slip 1, the next one is slip 1 then knit. That's what gives us the staggered look. So after we've got our yarn underneath, we slip the first one and knit the second one. Slip, so we're slipping on the white and we're knitting on the blue. Slipping on the white, knitting on the blue. And as you can see, it gives you that really nice, neat look that I was talking about. So you have to have that 1 roll of solid blue between your knit and slip rolls. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of this, and I'll come back to you after I finish the block. But I just wanted to show you why this is so important, because you can see right here how neat it is. Okay, I now have all the web part done, and you can see that 1 roll of blue really helps distinguish the individual little white stitches, which were the knit stitches, while the blues, I believe, were slipped. And then after you have to get that done, then since there's no more blue required, you can take and cut your blue off. That way you don't have to worry about it anymore, because all that's left is your red bricks and then your white, which you're going to do to finish the cap. So I'll go ahead and get the blocks done next, and then we'll go ahead and finish up the cap. I've completed the last block section. Now, if you were making it for a child, you would not have done the last block. You would have went straight to the crown. But here, since it's for a lady, I went ahead and completed the block section. So when you read here, after I've done that last block, then I'll enlarge it so we can see this. We do a round 37. I was done with rib, knit 1 purl 1, right? I said with color A, knit around one around with the white. So since I'm done with the red, I can cut the red. Okay, you have to knit 1 roll around in white. The primary reason for this is to get this red base its resting point. Like we did here, we always had those little rounds of blue as for resting. So that way, when you got ready to change from one design to another, or slip one, skip one, knit 1, slip 1, you didn't see any slight variations. The 1 round of knittings is like a cure-all to hide and blend everything out and even everything up. So that's why you do one round in plain knit between designs. It also works great, especially works great when you're doing a rib after something, because the rib after something like this in a different color would really show, because one would be a knit and one would be a purl, so it would have a different look. Because if I turned this around this way and did this as a purl, see what it looks like? It puts a little red knob there. But by doing all in knit across, when we get ready to do the purl, the white ribbon, the white knit stitch underneath won't show like that red one did. That's the reason why we have to do this one roll of the white after we do the red. It took me a while to figure that out, because everything I tried to do wouldn't work, and I'd always have that purl stitch sticking forward, that little bump in red on the white or on the blue, until I realized one round of plain knit hides all that. So let me get around. I'm not quite halfway yet, but there's not too much left to go. Oh, and I was going to tell you the reason why I did the rib stitch. Unfortunately, I took my hat. I think I took my hat back to the store yesterday. But the reason for the rib is this is so wide right here. If you immediately started with the decrease of as a crown, this would all pucker up like this, and you wouldn't really see your design. I found by putting that knit one, purl one, it kind of reduced it by half, and it didn't make this as rumply. It allowed it to stay flat here, and as the rib kind of went more naturally into the rib stitch near the top, it just kind of smoothed it out, and it just gave it a nice even look across the top before you did the decrease on the crown. That's the reason why the rib stitch was done. You'll be able to see it when we get to that point. I'm pretty sure I took that hat to the store, so we'll have to see it when this one is finished. I'm getting around to the other side. I don't like working on little needles. I like the bigger needles. I guess maybe it's my age. It's getting to the point where I like to do the bigger things instead of working all the little tiny delicate things. I leave that to the young. But I did want to show how I made this hat, because I thought it was so unique and different. And you can do it in any combination of colors, as I showed with all the ones I brought earlier and showed on this video. So far, I've been working on this for 3 evenings. Hopefully it will be done by tomorrow morning, and I'll have it uploaded by tomorrow afternoon. Okay, we're just about around. There we go. Now, see how loose that red one is? It's because it was the last red one. So what I would like to do is snug up that last red one and snug up the last white one for now, for the time being, and do a loose square knot, just like we did at the bottom, because we can always take it out, but this acts as a stitch holder until we're ready to weave everything in. Now is when we're going to start our knit purl. Okay, so now remember how we seen that little red bump in the front of that stitch? When you do it this way, the little red bump isn't as obvious because it's not red, it's white instead, and this will be the first starting of the purl part of the rib stitch, and it'll look very uniform, and it'll blend in a lot nicer. So this whole section here for, what is it, for 12 rounds is knit one, purl one all the way around. So I'm not going to stand here and have you watch me knit 12 rounds of knit one, purl one. I just wanted to give you the idea of how we started it and why we did this one roll of white before we started the rib. So I'll come back when I got my rolls done so we can start working on the crown decrease. We're down to the last little bit. I've got all the rib up here done. As you see, it kind of allows it to pucker in at the top, but yet it allows this to stay reasonably flat. That's what makes this rib on the top so functional. Also, we got the rib at the bottom. Now, when you measure this, this might be too long for an individual head. I went ahead and measured this. This comes out to 8 inches, which is quite long. If you don't want it that long, you can always leave off a roll of these blocks, or you can rearrange it and just do this, and then change this to the red color. That way you only got like maybe this much, that's 6 inches, and then you do the ribbon finish off. You can do it in any combination you like. It's just as you're knitting, you can decide if it's too big or too small. Now we're getting ready to go ahead and finish it up. Let's move this up a little ways, and I can enlarge it a bit. Okay, and this will be done with double pointed needles. After we get to a certain point, I have them sitting over here on the side waiting. Now what I like to do is knit the first stitch and move the marker to stitch number 2, because when we get onto the double pointed, you can't leave a marker right on the edge because it'll fall off. You have to have it between 2 stitches. So the first one says knit 6, knit 2 together, repeat around. So we're going to start here with, we knit 1, place our marker, and knit 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then knit 2 together. And you repeat this all the way around. Now I like to do as much as I can on the circular needles before I switch to the double pointed. That way I may only have 4 rounds that I have to do on the double pointed, which is a lot easier. The double pointed for me are a little cumbersome. I prefer to do on the circular whenever I can. So I try to get it as least amount of stitches as I can go around on my circulars before I go ahead and switch to the double pointed. I'm hoping I'm counting correctly while I'm talking. Oops. Got a little flaw there. We'll take it over. Okay, there. So now we got to do 6 more. Five, 6. Okay, and then do the same thing. There's 6, and then we knit 2 together. Now actually, this moving of that marker, I should have waited till I was on the double pointed needles, because that's when you need to do it the most. I'll just have to remember I have 1 stitch before the marker that's part of the first round. And then we knit 2 together. Three, 4, 5, 6, and then knit 2 together. And keep going. Oh, we're almost to the marker. Each time you go around, you're losing stitches, so each round goes a little bit faster. I think we lose maybe 6 stitches per round. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Now I might be off by 1 stitch or 2 because I'm doing this without really counting. I'm talking instead, but I think I'm pretty close. 6, knit 2 together. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together. I'm only off by 1, so let me go ahead and do 1 more here, because like I said, I should have not moved this marker till I got onto the double pointed, but I'll go ahead and leave it this way. All right, so then it says to knit 5, then knit 2 together and repeat it across. Now this might be the last one I can do on these circulars. 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together, because each time you do this, you're shrinking the amount of stitches, and you can only have so many stitches on circulars that get too tight to be able to function correctly and they distort and stretch the stitches, and we don't want to do that either. So that's why the double pointed come in handy. And then knit 2 together. Yeah, it's definitely getting tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knit 2 together. Do 5 more. Knit 2 together. Starting to definitely tighten up a bit. Then knit 2. And there's no rule as to what kind of needles you use. You can use metal needles, you can use wood needles, you can use plastic needles, whatever needles are available or whatever needles you enjoy using. They depend on what you prefer. I like my wood. I really don't care for metal. And I've noticed over years plastic needles kind of get sticky or gummy, so I stopped using them. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. This will be the last 5 I'll be able to do on this circular. 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. Okay, so now we're down to the knit 4, knit 2 together, then knit 2, knit 2 together, 3, then 2, then 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and start using the double pointed. I found if I do this, it helps get all the stitches closer to the needle that I'm working on. I just kind of stick it in the hat a little bit. That kind of helps hold it out of my way. So we start with knit 4, knit 2 together. Here's where I need to keep that 1 before the marker. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can count how many stitches you have and divide it evenly by 3, or you can just eyeball it. It doesn't really make a lot of difference. I need to get this around. There. So and we keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. The only drawback with wood needles is over time your points slowly get rounded. As you can see the difference between these two. This is a little more rounded than this one because I've used these quite a bit making hats. So then I just go out and buy another pair. Oh, I need to put this on another needle. Don't want to have too many on the needle, so we'll stop at that. Now I'm going to pick up another needle and continue. And then knit 2 together. 3, 4, knit 2 together. Now get another set here done. Okay, that's all I'm going to put on the second needle. So these last few, actually I could probably put 4 more on this needle. You can always move them around a little bit too after you get started. Okay, so there, that's how many I'm going to put on that needle. And I'm going to get the third needle and finish up these last few on the third needle. It's hard trying to keep it low so you can see what I'm doing, but I'll try to do the best I can to keep all these needles in order for you. See, I'm down to the last few. There. Okay, here's my last ones. I might have miscounted because I think I might have a wrong amount here. 2, no, I won't. 3, 4, and knit 2 together. There. Okay, now the double pointed is gone and all my stitches are now, the circular's gone and now my stitches are on the double pointed. So as you work, you would knit these stitches off of this needle onto this needle, and then when this needle is empty, you would use it to knit these stitches, and then when this needle is empty, you use that needle for these stitches. So you're constantly rotating, and always make sure you do that. You don't want to get it down to where all your stitches are on 2 needles, because that makes it very, very difficult to knit. Okay, so now this one is knit 3, knit 2 together. There's 1, 2, 3, and make sure you have your stitches that you're not using kind of centered in the needle. You don't want them too close to the tip because they could fall off with all the maneuvering and manipulating you're doing while you're trying to get all these knitted off as you knit around. 3, knit 2 together. Okay, so now I've got all the stitches off that needle that fell on the floor. Okay, so now I turn my work. So now my empty needle, I knit these off of, because now the one with the green marker is on that needle. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together. And just keep repeating this just like we did before. It's just they're on double pointed. Now, ladies who love to make socks, this is one of the methods they use to make socks. They work them on these double pointed needles and keep going around and around and around. I'm not super enthusiastic about knitting socks, so I don't really make too many. Now I turn my work again. Now the empty needle that I just used, I'm going to knit these onto. 2, 3, and then 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 2 together. I was looking for my tapestry needle. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. 1, 2, 3, and knit 2 together. Okay, now I've gone around once because there's my marker. So now this time I do knit 2 together. Oops, almost fell off. Okay, 1, 2, knit 2 together. You may have to manipulate the needles a little bit, move them around where they're laying comfortably, and you have room to get your fingers in between. Now, I don't knit continental, so I'm always, as they say, throwing my yarn around the needle. But both ways work. You can do continental or you can do the American throw method. Both ways work. You just have to be consistent. You don't want to continental your knit side and purl your American side, because then it's going to twist the stitches and you're going to notice it. So you want to stay very uniform in which method of knitting you want to do. I don't know, did I switch? Was I supposed to be doing knit 3, knit 2 together? Because right now I'm knitting 2 and knitting 2 together, but it looks like it's going. Knit 2, knit 2 together. Okay, now turn my work. So now this needle, we do these. Okay, knit 2, knit 2 together, knit 2, one, 2. You want to get it down to where you have anywhere between 10 and 15 stitches left. Okay, so now this one will be knit 1, knit 2 together. That's why you just put this just past your first stitch, because you always have that 1 stitch left till the very, very end. Okay, knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1. We're just about finished. We have one more round after this, and then we can go ahead and get all these stitches off the needles and finish our hat. Knit 1, knit 2 together, okay, we're getting there. Oh, let's bring this one back a little bit. The yarn has a tendency to kind of go all over the place, so you may have to find it before you start knitting again. But that's just part of the fun of knitting. Okay, we're down to our last round, and the last round says to knit 2 together. You should have 10 stitches left after you knit the 2 together. Now to do this, you're going to have to get the marker out of your way. So I just take it off. And then I knit 2 together. Knit 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1 done. Turn my knit work. Okay, now we do this one. Knit 2 together. All the way around on this one, so that made 4, 5, 6, 7. And now my last one. This should be 8, 9, and 10. So mine worked out right. Okay, I've got those done. Now we're going to, where'd my scissors? So there. I always leave myself a good foot. It's better to leave too much yarn than not have enough. Okay. Thread a needle. Now what you would do is go to your first one. Let's see, since this was the last needle, I'm going to start taking them off on this needle. So you put the stitches on the needle from the wooden needle or the double pointed needle onto your tapestry needle. Turn your work. Slide these onto your tapestry needle. And slide your last 3 or 4, however you got it, onto your tapestry needle. Now before I pull it tight, I like to make sure I got a little extra security, so I will go through each of the little loops one more time. So that makes it 2 rounds of yarn inside these loops, just to make sure it doesn't come off or break. There we go. Then I pull it tight. Sometimes you'll get one that sticks up. I I think that's part of the thread that's sticking up. So I will pull it down to the inside and catch it when I get to the inside. Okay, there. Now sometimes you get that little hole that shows. So what I do is I'll go ahead and kind of weave the needle around a couple more, at least once more on through the top, just to give it that little extra security. Then I drop it down to where the center hole is. Turn my work inside out. See, there's that one thread. I'm kind of catching it in my needle. And then I just weave back and forth. I want to make sure this top does not become untangled. Here I've got a loose stitch, so I'm just going to go ahead and catch it. There. See, now the loose stitch is gone. At this point, you just weave it back and forth as many times as you want, just till you know it's secure. Cut your tail, and there you go. See, I got off by 1. Remember at one point I got off by 1, so I don't have that smooth ending that I should have had because of being off by 1. But you can see how by doing this rib at the top here, it keeps this laying reasonably nice, but it gives it a nice little ripple too if you're not, when it's laying flat. So because the rib pulls it tight, and then it also pulls it tighter here near the top. So when you start doing the decrease, it helps give you a nice curve around the top. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like what I'm doing, subscribe to my YouTube video and hit notifications so each time a new video comes out, you'll be one of the first ones to see it. This pattern you will be able to find on my website, stitchniche.com. It's called 3-5 color hat. I think it's on the front of this here. Yeah. Oh, 3 and 5 or 3-5 color hat and wrist warmer set, because the wrist warmers is with it too. And I made it 2 ways. I did it in the round, and I've also done it on straight needles. I think, no, that was the other hat that I did it both ways. But I just wanted to show you how I did this one. You might also be able to find it on Ravelry.com. It may be there too. I haven't looked for a while. But again, thank you for watching. If you've decided to do a 5-color neon hat on page 2, this is the colors I used when I made my 5-color hat. As you see, I've left you the blanks here also, like I did with the 3-color. So you can choose your colors for your 5-color hat and just follow the same directions, although the directions for the neon hat is mentions more colors. It'll mention color D, color E, because D and E would be your extra 2 colors. So that's another combination you can use to make a neon hat or make a 5-color hat.